So the question is, you've got 12 team members, and you're hoping to be able to spend an equal amount of time coaching each one of them. And it seems like maybe whenever you have new team members coming on, you're spending a little bit more time with them. And maybe the concern is that you're not spending enough time with other team members.
Yes.
So I think just as a I guess maybe a first thought is that I don't know that it's necessary to spend an equal amount of time with each team member. And so there can be a couple of reasons for why this is. So for instance, when you have a new person coming on, it's very likely you're going to spend more time with them to help them get onboarded. So I'm just going to lay out a couple of scenarios where it doesn't, yeah, in my view, it doesn't, you don't need to spend an equal amount of time with each team member. What you need to do is find out how much time each team member needs to thrive, both professionally and personally even. So the goal should be to kind of know what each person needs to feel like they're getting enough time to be able to do their best work, to feel like they're really growing professionally, and perhaps even growing personally as well and thriving personally. And that's going to differ from person to person. So, I'll lay out maybe a couple scenarios as to like how it could be different, and then maybe some ideas for how you can determine what each person needs. So, for instance, you've already mentioned when people have onboarded or they're still going through the onboarding process, or they've onboarded and now they're ramping up on your team. Inherently, those people are going to need more time, and I think it's kind of natural. Um, Likewise, you might have the other end of the spectrum is you might have really high performers who are doing great, and they actually are craving autonomy and as a way to develop themselves. And so for there, it's not like you just want to just say, hey, I'm never going to talk to you again because you know what you're doing, and I'm just going to stay out of your way. It's better to have a good conversation to say something, some framing it around the context of, hey, you're clearly one of our top performers, and I want to start extending more responsibility to you. Um, and but I want to make sure that you're getting enough time from me that you need to be continuing to do great work, to continue to improve and grow professionally and even personally. And for some people, they might say like, "Hey, um, I just need 15 minutes a week of your time just to check in on a few things." And as you might have recalled, early on in the training, we talked about kind of separating work related meetings with one-to-ones to the greatest extent possible. So, there can be regular check-ins on work. And I guess that's an important distinction because your high performers, they may only need a 15-minute check-in once a week on work. And it could literally just be, hey, what's going well? Is there anything getting in your way? Any way I can help? And that might be it, right? Um, Now with the one-to-ones, a true uh, and these should happen at least once a month, but ideally maybe even once every 2 weeks, is having a good one-to-one that's really about growth overall. So it could be work related, but it could be career growth related. It could be even helping somebody with something that they're dealing with outside of work that, of course, could impact their work as well. And so there, I do recommend having equal amount of time. So at least offering it. People may not need it, but I think it's good to have whatever your cadence is. If it's every 2 weeks you're having a 20 to 30-minute one-to-one with each of your 12 direct reports, that's great. If you have the time to do it every week, that's even better. But it may not be feasible and it may not be necessary. But let's just say your cadence is one 20 to 30-minute one-to-one meeting every 2 weeks with all 12 direct reports. I think that should be equal, right? So that at least the offer. So there should be time on the calendar to say, hey, this is your time to let me know what I can do to better help you thrive. Whether it's at work or away from work, this is your opportunity to let me know how I can help. And ideally, the team members should be coming to you with things, but you can also have an agenda, as you learned in the People Thriver training that you've already gone through at this point. So those I do recommend at least having that. If it's 20 minutes, it's fine. But you may find a lot of people, they'll show up and they'll say, I don't really have anything. And then you might want to ask them some questions just to make a little bit, if you've already got the time on the calendar, it doesn't have to be the full 20 minutes, but some questions I like to ask are things like, hey, what are some things that I'm doing that you'd like me to do more of? What are some things that I'm doing that you'd like me to do less of? And in order to help you really succeed and thrive at work. You could also just check in, kind of gauging their what degree they're thriving at work, and just saying like, hey, what's gone really well for you the last 2 weeks or the last week, whenever it is from the last time you spoke. Has there been anything that got in your way that helped you, or that resulted in you feeling frustrated? Um, and those might be really quick. You might have people that they're just really doing well. They might only need 5-10 minutes of your time. And you could say, all right, is there anything else on your mind you want to chat about? And if they say no, then that's it. So you might not need to give the full 20 minutes. But I think it is important to have those one-to-ones regularly scheduled, because even just showing up, even if the person doesn't have anything, the fact that you consistently show up and demonstrate that with your questions that, hey, this is about me helping you thrive at work, it shows that you care. And that goes a long way, where people feel like, okay, I'm not just a commodity. This person really cares about me as a person. They're willing to put time on their calendar. I know that they're a busy manager. They're willing to put time on their calendar to have these meetings just to talk about how I can better succeed in my career, to grow, to better thrive at work. They can go a long way. So with that distinction in mind, um, beyond that, like for work check-ins, not everyone's going to need an equal amount of time for you. Now, one last idea that I would share is that you want to be real careful about, if you've got people who have clearly demonstrated that they're not going to be a high performer. So you might have team members kind of rated in your mind. You've got an A player, a B player, and a C player. An A player is just like, man, they're dialed in, they're succeeding, they're hitting or exceeding goals every time, and they don't need much from you. That person probably doesn't need hardly any of your time, but you still want to offer, like, hey, just let's have a quick work check-in. Anything you need from me? They may not need it. But then you've got, B players who are, maybe they're kind of past the training stage, but they haven't quite reached that A level yet. You can see the potential in them. That's probably a good place to spend a decent amount of time. Like if you had to kind of choose between where you spend the most time, whether it's A, B, or C, I think it's those B players who have the potential to be A players, but just need a little bit of extra guidance and coaching. They might need a little bit more. When you have C players who are just consistently underperforming, there comes a point where you just have to say, like, okay, well, we have to figure out a way, kind of as you probably heard before, like, with the whole coaching mindset of understanding what is it that they're trying to achieve, what's getting in their way, how can you help? If you lay all that out, if they've told you their goals, they've told you what they need from you to achieve those goals, and they're not hitting them, that's probably a good time to say, okay, I can't continue investing time in this person. We have to give them kind of an ultimatum and let them figure it out for themselves. And if they're not a fit, we need to find a different team for them to play on. So that's where it's kind of can be a little gray, a little fuzzy, is in that C range. It's, you want to, especially if you see potential in people, you want to work to try to get them to that B level. But if it's clear that it's just not going to happen, you don't want to spend too much time there. You want to spend just enough to give them what they need to have a chance to hit that B level. But if you spend too much time there, then you will neglect your B players who could be A's, and maybe some of your A's as well.